Hey folks, welcome back. Another Palm Master Deals. Today let's talk a bit about the upcoming Lucian and Girafarig, right? That's dropping later tonight, which as usual we'll be pulling for, right? As we always do. And this Lucian Girafarig is a very interesting unit. It's a very interesting unit, right? And it's just because it does like a lot of very different things. That you think would be different, but it's actually a lot of things that some other units do, right? But he like does them all, sort of. It's weird to explain. Girafarig's a weird Pokemon to begin with, so it makes sense. But anyways, let's go over it. So Lucian Girafarig, obviously a tech unit over here, right? If you look at base stats, really good speed. Defenses are kind of whatever. HP's kind of whatever, right? Special attack is very good, in fact. And then you have Confusion, which is a 1-gauge spammable, right? Obviously, it's not doing any real damage. Even if you pick up like Confusion Foul Fighting 9, which gives, 90% boost, it still does nothing. X Special Attack, which is X Special Attack, has Growl, right, which debuff the opponent's a physical attack. And then you have Read It and Weep, which is the trainer move, which raises your defense, special defense by 1, raises crit by 2, and then gives gradual healing to yourself. As for why it's buffing its defense and special defense, I don't really know, honestly. It doesn't really, like, you're not really tanking with them anyways. I mean, you can, but it's, I would hope you have better tanks than this guy, right? Because even with those defenses, he's not going to be a fantastic tank, right? So, yeah, it does have max crit, right? You could buff your special attack. And then you have a nuke over here, right? The more the opponent's special defense, the lower, the more the nuke is over here, right? And then if you look at the passives, like if you look at the regular kit, it's like, it's kind of whatever, right? You don't have too much in here. A lot of his stuff does come from his passives, right? Most of his stuff, I'd say, comes from his passives. First passive, Stupefy 9, 100% chance of lowering target's special defense, right? By 1 rank when a move targeting the opponent is successful. So every single hit you hit the opponent debuffs their special defense by 1, right? Which is obviously fantastic. And then you have Team Viral Hustle 9, 100% chance of raising the speed of all allies. And compares by 1 stat rank with the user's Pokemon uses a status move. So every time you use Growl, buffs your entire team's speed by 1 as well, right? So yeah, then you have Pecking Order, which is obviously a 2 times nuke, sync nuke multiplier, right? So if you look at its base kit without even looking at the grid, right? What does this guy do? Well, he has a 1-gauge spammable that could confuse the opponent, that could max out your crit, your own crit, right? Plus 4 special attack, debuff the opponent's physical attack, debuff the opponent's special defense for every, hit you take, and then every time you are using Growl, you also buff your team's speed. So it's a team speed buffer, it's a opponent debuffer, right? And you have a nuke over here with this as well, which is very powerful, in fact, right? I mean, it's the only, like, very unfortunate thing about his nuke, because it's a very strong nuke, is that, well, he is Psychic type, and this is very powerful. This is very powerful. Put it in any other type, well, I wouldn't say any other type, but put this in a lot of other types, this is the strongest nuke in their type. But unfortunately, he's Psychic, and Psychic has some other insane nukes as well. So, slightly unfortunate for Lucian over here, right? It's still a, what, almost 5 million nuke is nothing to scoff at, right? Nothing to scoff at like a 5 million nuke. But, again, it is Psychic type. Lyra exists, Anime exists, right? Even Caleb to an extent is very good there. Will's pretty good too as well, right? And, the other ones are fine too. Yeah, but the thing about Lucian is I feel like Lucian's sync nuking potential isn't really the big focus of his kit. Like, yeah, you have a nuke there, but it's mainly you got the speed buffs, you got the special defense debuffs, right? And you got the attack debuffs as well. I mean, attack debuffs generally not a huge deal. There's not too many units that could really take advantage of that, right? If you are running them with Lucian specifically, right, in terms of synergy wise, but obviously speed helps everyone, right? Everyone in the game appreciates speed buffs, and every special damage healer in the game appreciates special damage debuffs, right? as well. And again, being a relatively fast unit himself with the 1 gauge spam over here with confusion. The only thing about confusion is confusion in of itself not that great of a or affliction, because most units that really use confusion, that have stuff like confusion synergy or you know, confusion power up stuff, right, they usually can confuse relatively reliably on their own as well, right? I feel like stuff like Halloween Acerola, whatever, right? Mallets Arena, like they basically can confuse on their own, right? I mean, it helps, but it's also not the biggest deal in the world. So anyways, looking at the grid, right? Looking at the grid, you have stuff like at 1 out of 5. 1 out of 5, you have the MP Refresh on X special attack, which if you really just want to run him, you know, completely self-sufficient, right? If you were trying to nuke with him as well, that is nice to have, right? But otherwise, you don't have too much else. It's just some like unflappable, wide awake, dauntless, haste. So your stats can't be lured, can't be flinch or slept, right? Which is kind of whatever. So 1 out of 5, you don't really get much. But I would say 1 out of 5, outside of like a few things here and there which are nice, I'd say most of your kit is pretty complete at 1 out of 5, right? Just with the pass, which is kind of rare for spotlights, because a lot of spotlights generally do need more copies to be more functional. But like this guy's like almost completely functional at 1 out of 5, right? And then at 2 out of 5, you have Precognition, Weird Recovery, which is some Psychic Terrain stuff. You have 2 Sync Move Power-Up nodes, which are nice. Dominating Sync, which extra 20% on your Sync when the opponent's attack is lured, which is nice to have. Not a huge deal, but nice to have, right? Foul Fighting 9, which is not that great. Got extra Special Attack plus 20 node here, right? So yeah, 2 out of 5, you really don't get too much, I'd say. And then 3 out of 5 is where you get the big stuff, right? Catalyst is big, right? Sync, and then you get Move Gauge Acceleration, fantastic. Aggravation on Confusion, if you really need to confuse the opponent for some reason, that obviously helps a lot. Ramp up on next special attack is fantastic as well, because you could just, you know, you straight up don't need anyone else to buff all your stuff, and then you could easily double X special attack. Use Read It and Weep, although you still are missing +1 crit, right? And then boom, you could basically self-sufficient. I mean, you could sync with the EX support first and then have it sync afterwards, so that wouldn't be an issue, right? Charging Affliction with Growl, which is very nice as well, right? Every time you use a status move, you get 2 move gauges back. Like, that's fantastic, right? This guy's just really good for gauges. Adrenaline is great, right, as well. You know, so you don't have to quad Q. You basically get it. Healthy super hit if you really want, I guess, for that, you know, 1 super effective up nuke. So yeah, you definitely have some really nice QOL stuff. 3 out of 5, I just wouldn't say like anything that he has on grid is really crucial to the core of his kit, because there are units that really need grids to make their core of their kit even function. Like Hilbert's a great example. Hilbert at 1 out of 5 is trash, right? And you need that 3 out of 5 for his basic functions to function. But Girafarig, not the case, right? A lot of 3 out of 5 stuff is just QL stuff, right? Ramp up, so you don't have to bring another special attack buffer. Aggravation, so your confusion lands a bit easier. Catalyst gives you a bit more, you know, extra move gauge acceleration after you sync. Charging Affliction, a bit more gauges back, right? Adrenaline, so it makes, again, quad Q easy. Like, all of these stuff are just QOL stuff, right? Quality of life stuff for Lucian. That doesn't really affect the main core of his kit. The main core of his kit is pretty intact at 1 out of 5, right? I'd say so. Anyways, Lucian, good unit, right? I wouldn't say is as crazy as, you know, some of the other spotlights, like a Bertha or Aaron or was Lost in Sonya or whatever, but he's definitely a really nice unit. It's just like a lot of these things some other units do, right? Like, for example, like, it's kind of like Palatine's Dawn, right? Instead of, you know, -2 each time for special defense and physical attack, it's like -1, but like you get both at the same time, kind of, and you also get speed buffs for your team, and and then you basically trade attack and special attack buffs from Palatine's Dawn with like speed buffs with Lucian, which is slightly debatable which one's better. And then yeah, the much better nuke over here, right? So yeah, it is kind of like side grade to Palatine's Dawn, which is definitely really, really good, right? Because Palatine's Dawn is fantastic. But then again, obviously, big issue here is it is a Spotlight banner, right? And even if you are a whale, even, you know, I mean, unless you're like a super whale, like that just like pulls on like everything, then sure, go for it, right? Because the new Spotlight discounts are really, really nice. But otherwise, like, even if you are a whale, I'd say good banner, but I'd say Aaron and Bertha are a bit more worth it at the moment, right? Because they do fit more unique roles, rather than Lucian, which is more of a general, really, really nice buffer, debuffer status thing, right? Speed unit. So yeah. But again, as for free-to-play players, right? Morty's banner's still up. SS Morty is clearly better than all these units, right? As great as these units are, and again, all three of these Elite Four units are fantastic, but Morty's better, right? Singzu Morty should be a higher priority, plus it's on a limited banner. And then also, again, SS Geo's coming later this month. Next month, we could potentially have a Johto Master Fair drop as well, right? With the part 2 of the Johto Villain arc, so we'll see what happens there as well, right? Even if it's not a, you know, Master Fair, it should potentially be some very, very powerful Pokefairs as well. So again, we'll see what happens next month over there with the other stuff. But yeah, of all the units this month, I'd say Lucian's probably the lowest priority, right? And that's saying a lot because Lucian's a fantastic unit, right? Just this month's units are just all so good, man. This month's units are so fantastic. As for like a score, I'd say I give him a 2.5 out of 10 pull rate. Again, very, very good unit, right? Nothing, I don't really have anything bad to say about it. I guess he just doesn't do damage outside of his thing, which is fair, right? But again, like, even if he does have like a damage healing move, would you really be using it over like just growling a lot, right? For most of the battle? Probably not. So maybe that's not even fair, but yeah, it's just that, again, of all the other units, banners that are up this month, his priority is probably among the lowest, right? Because again, it's a Spotlight unit. Once the banner goes away, he's going to be put in the regular pool. And even if you do compare him with the other 2 Spotlight units that are out this month, and again, he's very good. I've said this a billion times. He's a very, very good unit. I guess everyone probably gets it by now. He's a great unit, but I do think even if you are comparing Spotlight units, right, the other 2 are better, right? It's just circumstances, right? It's not the relatively lower pull score isn't an indicator of how great the unit is. It's just, again, circumstances, right? Spotlight banner, right? And then there's just other Spotlight banners that are better. And again, there's fantastic limited units that are worth pulling on right now. But yeah, if you're a whale, go for it. But otherwise, I'd say just save or spend your gems on Morty, right? SS Morty. So anyways, that's me on this one. I hope you all enjoyed. Guys, get the comments down below. Like if you enjoyed this video, so our channel some more about Mouse's content. We will be pulling from later tonight, so make sure to tune in, all that stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next one then.